recorded.
Thank you, moderator. This is the Executive Officer, Karen Fisher. President Pacheco, it's all yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Dental Board of California quarterly board meeting. My name is Joanne Pacheco, and I am the president of the board. Today is Friday, February the 26th, 2021. The board meeting is being held via WebEx. Pursuant to the provisions of Governor Newsom's Executive Order N-25-20, dated March 12, 2020, neither a public location nor teleconference locations are provided for this meeting. For all those who wish to participate, please log on to the WebEx website provided on the posted agenda for this meeting. Instructions to connect to the meeting are provided on the agenda. The preferred audio connection is via telephone conference and not the microphone and speakers on your computer. The phone number and access code will be provided as part of your connection to the meeting. Since this meeting is being held via WebEx, I will ask all board members and speakers to announce themselves by name before speaking for clarity of the official record. All board members are able to unmute themselves to speak during the meeting. Please place yourself back on mute when not speaking to reduce background noise for all participants. When making a motion, please use the raised hand feature located at the bottom right of the WebEx screen so board staff can identify a motion and a second. Following such online meeting etiquette will ensure the best audio quality for everyone. During each call for comments from board members and speakers, we will ensure that all comments that can be accommodated are heard before proceeding with the agenda. The board will be taking a 15-minute break in the morning and a 30-minute lunch break, estimated to occur between noon and 12:30 p.m., and another 15-minute break following in the afternoon. This is an official business meeting of the Dental Board of California. The board welcomes public comments on any comment on the agenda, and it is the board's intent to ask for public comments prior to the board taking action on any agenda item. The DCA moderator will explain the process for providing public comment shortly. When called upon, the moderator will unmute the microphone of the individual, and they will have 2 minutes to make a public comment. The moderator will audibly announce when 30 seconds remain to conclude the public comment. After the 2 minutes have lapsed, the individual will be placed back on mute. Only one public comment per agenda is allowed per attendee. Depending on the number of people who would like to testify on a particular agenda item, a total time limit may be imposed. We ask all speakers to please stay on topic and not repeat testimony already provided. If you agree with testimony already provided, please just state your name and that you are in support of any comments previously provided. I would now like to ask the DCA moderator to please explain how public comments will be taken during this WebEx meeting. Thank you.
Good morning, this is the moderator. To facilitate public meeting for let me start over. To facilitate public comment for today's meeting, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature. When the board reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on and members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, quote, "I would like to make a comment," end quote, in the box, which is typically located in the lower right portion of your screen. To access that box, you'll be looking for the Q&A icon, which is a square with a question mark inside, and we'll click on that to access that text box. The moderator will then call on the individual and unmute their microphone. The individual will have 2 minutes to make their comments. At the conclusion of the 2 minutes, The microphone will be muted and we will move on to the next member of the public who has a comment. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for the members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. This is not a means to ask questions of the moderator or members of the board. Such inquiries submitted using this feature will not be answered. When making your comment, please make sure the comment is directed at the host in the dropdown. While you are free to express criticism or negative views for the sake of the members of the public participating on this meeting, please do not use profane language when making your public comments to the board. I will provide a brief reminder of this approach at the start of each public comment item. And finally, when board members or senior staff are not speaking, I would like to remind them to mute their microphone. If I detect background noise during the meeting as a result of unmuted microphones, I will interject with a brief friendly reminder. Thank you, and the floor is turned back over to Board President Pacheco.
Thank you. I would like to call the meeting to order and ask the board secretary to please call the roll.
Good morning. This is Dr. Alan Felsenfeld, Board Secretary, and I will now call the roll. Burton.
Burton here.
Burton present. Felsenfeld here. Lai.
Lai present.
Lai present. Larine.
Larine present.
Larine present. Mackenzie.
Mackenzie present.
Mackenzie present. Medina.
Medina present.
Medina present. Mendoza.
Mendoza present.
Mendoza present. Molina.
Molina present.
Molina present. Montel.
Montel present.
Montel present. Morrow.
Morrow present.
Morrow present. Olagi.
Olagi present.
Olagi present. Pacheco.
Pacheco present.
Pacheco present. Stewart.
Stewart present.
Stewart present. You.
You present.
You present. Thank you. We have established a quorum.
Thank you, board secretary. We'll now move on to agenda item 2, public comment on items not on the agenda. Are there any public comments on items not on the agenda? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to your hosts. We'll pause for a brief moment to allow time for submission of requests for comment. Seeing no requests, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Please.
It is closed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 3, discussion and possible action on December 3rd, 2020 and December 4th, 2020 board meeting minutes. Is there any board member discussion? Please use the raised hand feature. Dr. Laren?
Good morning, this is Dr. Laren. I have a correction to make. It's on page 8, the second to last paragraph. It says that it is not a supervised profession, extended functions, but it is. We have to remove the word "not."
Dr. Laren, this is Karen Fisher. Are you on page 8 of the meeting minutes or page 8 of the meeting materials?
Of the minutes.
Okay, I would ask all board members when referring to something in the packet to refer to the very bottom line of the meeting materials.
Oh, okay.
So,
yes, it's number 14.
So page 14, and where are you? You're under agenda item 16. CII?
Yes, it's the second to the last paragraph.
Okay.
It says, since it is, the last line says, since it is not a supervised profession. We have to remove the word "not," I would think. It says, additionally, the OPES recommended that the practical and clinical portion is not necessary since it is not a supervised profession.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Laren. I see no further comments. Is there a motion to approve the minutes with the correction? Fran made a motion. Ms. Burton, and is there a second?
Morrow, second.
Morrow, second.
Pardon me, President Pacheco, did we
Yes.
get a verbal confirmation from Ms. Burton?
Ms. Burton? Her hand is still raised. I'm imagining she's trying to make a connection.
I move agenda item 3.
Thank you. Motion by Burton, seconded by Morrow. Thank you. Please turn off the hand feature once the motion and seconded has been recorded. Are there any public comments? Please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. Again, if you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen and type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field, and then click send. Our first comment comes from Anthony Lum. Anthony, your line is unmuted and you will have 2 minutes.
Good morning, Madam President and board members. I wasn't sure if I was listed as a panelist or not. I may have missed the mic call in. So what I have a comment on, and I'm hoping to get a revision of, is on page 9 of your board meeting minutes for the Dental Hygiene Board of California update and report. In the middle of that section, it indicates that the Office of Professional Examination Resources, OPES, approved the mannequin-based exam. That's actually not correct. Actually, the board approved the exam. OPES opined that at the current time when they did their evaluation, that it was not a viable alternative to patient-based exams. So it was the board who approved the exam, not OPES. I appreciate your consideration in that revision. Thank you.
Seeing no additional requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Thank you. Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes for this agenda item.
Mr. Board Secretary, I will now call the roll. We are voting on the minutes of 12-3 and 12-4 as amended. Burton.
This is the moderator. Remember, Burton, when you unmute your microphone, you'll need to wait just a brief pause for it to actually make the connection before you speak, because I think what's happening is you're speaking before the connection is made, so we're not hearing anything. If you can unmute your microphone and now speak. I think there's a delay in her unmuting. I will unmute her for the... Ms. Burton, if you can please vote now.
Burton, aye.
Thank you.
Burton, aye. Thank you. Felsenfeld, aye. Lai.
Lai, aye.
Lai, aye. Levine.
Irene, aye.
Loreen, aye. McKenzie.
McKenzie, yes.
McKenzie, was that yes? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, McKenzie, aye. Medina. Aye. Medina, aye. Mendoza.
Mendoza, aye.
Mendoza, aye. Molina.
Molina, I.
Molina, aye. Montel.
Montel, aye.
Montel, aye. Morrow.
Morrow, aye.
Morrow, aye. Alagi.
Olagi, I.
Alagi, aye. Pacheco.
Pacheco, I.
Pacheco, aye. Stewart.
Stewart, yes.
Stewart, aye. You.
I.
You, aye. There are 14 votes in the positive. The motion is adopted.
Thank you, Board Secretary. We will now move on to agenda item 4, the board's president's report. I look forward to when we can meet in person. However, until then, we will continue to meet in this virtual environment. I would like to thank the board's executive officer and all of the board staff for their continued diligence maintaining board operations while maintaining flexibility in the continued changing work environment. We're nearly 1 year into the pandemic, and we have successfully embraced the many changes to the practice of dentistry. Response to COVID-19 continues to perform extremely well, shifting attention to the vaccination efforts. I would like to thank Governor Newsom, the California Department of Public Health, and the Director of the DCA, Kimberly Kirschmeyer, for their leadership in facilitating the vaccination efforts for healthcare. I would also like to thank the board for their confidence in electing a dental hygienist as board president, and it delights me that the board recognizes that the practice of dentistry includes many parts that make up a whole, as it is imperative that all of the parts work together in a collaborative effort. In preparation for this year, I attended the DCA's first ever president's training and attend regularly scheduled calls with the board's executive officer. At this time, I would like to welcome the newest public member who was appointed to the board by the State Assembly, Angelita, or Angie Medina. And I would like to allow her a few minutes to tell us a little bit about her extensive background in healthcare services. Angie? Angie, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I would. Sorry, I wasn't unmuted. Thank you for for the welcome. I'm excited to be here with all of you today. I'm looking forward to my time on the board. Just want to share a couple of things about me. I retired from LA County Department of Health Services, where I worked there for 33 years. I started at County USC, which is also known as General Hospital, and then worked primarily after that in various administrative positions, countywide positions, OB overflow. I was the head of operations for the county's HMO. I was the director of Children's Health Outreach, was a countywide effort to increase the number of insured children in the county system with private and public healthcare programs. I have a master's in healthcare administration from USC, and I have 3 sons. And for fun, I like to travel and do some wine tasting and go to restaurants that have great food. So I like to eat. And I just want to thank those of you on the board that reached out to me, and I particularly want to thank Karen for her support, for reaching out and being here the last month or so and ensuring that I felt as comfortable as possible under the circumstances with this new role. So again, I'm happy to be here with you, and thank you for the few moments to introduce myself.
Thank you, Angie, and we look forward to meeting you in person when we are allowed to, and welcome to the board.
Thank you.
As we move through our agenda today, let us be reminded that the members of the dental board, individually and collectively, are dedicated to the legislative mandate that protection of the public shall be its highest priority. Whenever the protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public will always be paramount. This concludes my report, and we will move to the executive officer's report. Thank you.
Thank you, President Pacheco. I'm just wondering if you wanted to allow any board members to comment on your report.
Yes, please. DCA moderator, please facilitate public comment. I see no board member comments.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the Ask field and submit that to your hosts. Seeing no requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
And thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 5, Executive Officer's Report.
Thank you, President Pacheco, and good morning, members and the public. My name is Karen Fisher, and I'm the Executive Officer of the Dental Board of California. I'm going to begin my report with an update on COVID-19 and specifically talk about the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act first. The governor's declaration of the state of emergency has allowed the board to conduct its quarterly meetings via this WebEx format. During this time, locations of where more members are participating in the meeting do not need to be posted on the official agenda. I wanted to remind members that this is a unique situation. In the past, the board was able to conduct teleconferences, but the locations where members would be participating were required to be posted to allow the public to attend the meeting at various locations. Most members found this intrusive, so most meetings were conducted in person, leaving the teleconference option utilized only in special circumstances for a limited discussion, such as an emergency closed session meeting over the noon hour. I wanted to let you know that other executive officers within DCA have expressed an interest in seeking legislation to be able to continue this format after the state of emergency is lifted, and we are hopeful that that will be an option for the board. Although most boards will likely go ahead and meet in person once the state of emergency is lifted, we would like to continue to have that option. With regard to the COVID-19 specifically, during the December 4th meeting, staff learned that the governor again would be closing down the state offices to the public effective immediately due to the surge in hospitalizations and deaths relating to COVID-19. Assistant Executive Officer Sarah Wallace, along with a team of managers, worked to update the casual telework agreements for all staff and sent employees home to work. And on Monday, December 7th, the building was closed to the public and remained so until January 26, 2021, when the office reopened to conduct its business during normal business hours of 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Support staff have continued to work in the office answering phones, returning calls, and opening mail. And the Complaint and Compliance Unit has also been working on site to process complaints. Many staff have been completing work assignments from home and rotating into the office on a scheduled basis to print and mail documents. Managers continue to emphasize that employees follow the state safety guidelines, stay 6 feet apart, wear facial coverings at all times while in the office, and wash hands frequently. It has been a challenging time. The good news is that people are getting vaccinated. Our Sacramento investigators have already received the first dose of the vaccine, actually this week, and we are notified that the Orange office investigators will start receiving their first doses within the next couple of weeks. So this is good news. The sooner we can get herd immunity, the faster we can get back to whatever this new normal is going to end up being. My next report will be on the personnel update. There are currently 17.5 vacancies within our 84 authorized position count. We continue to try to fill those vacancies as quickly as possible. And so recruitments are continuing and interviews are continuing whether or not they're interviews on a WebEx or interviews in person. So we are continuing to recruit and fill those positions as quickly as possible. I will just briefly mention the update regarding the waivers. So as you know, on March 4th, 2020, when the governor proclaimed a state of emergency as a result of COVID, that essentially allowed the director of the Department of Consumer Affairs the authority to waive any statutory or regulatory requirements for the DCA boards and bureaus. And so there are a number of waivers that are posted on our board's website. I continue to send out the waivers to board members when we receive them. So rather than go through all of the waivers that are on the website, I just want you to know that they're there. They are also posted on the Department of Consumer Affairs website. And of course, anytime board members have any questions about the waivers, please feel free to contact me. I also wanted to let you know that one of the waivers that will be updated today will be the waiver that extends the continuing education requirements for renewals. And so the director has continued to extend continuing education requirements for people 6 months beyond their renewal time to allow them the opportunity to complete their CEs. Now, we have found that the CE providers have really jumped in, and there's a lot more CEs online and interactive available. So at some point, this 6-month extension will likely go away. But in the meantime, that is something that is being offered to licensees to assist them if they are having difficulty getting their CEs in line prior to the renewal period. The next item actually appears in your meeting materials. I wanted to provide you with the memo from Dr. Montez regarding the Office of Professional Examinations policy, and it's regarding participation in exam development workshops. I'm not going to go over this in detail. It's provided for your information and as a reference. But you'll recall board members were interested in being examiners for the REB exam. And this does not essentially, this is just an example of what needs to be done if members want to continue to be examiners for the REB exam. Essentially, decisions are made on a case-by-case basis, but in part, board members can be REB examiners as long as that they're graders, they don't have any interaction with the candidates, they're not identified by name, they sign the appropriate conflict of interest forms. So there is essentially an avenue, if you will, for board members to go ahead and be REB examiners. And if you have any questions about that specifically, feel free to contact me after the board meeting, and we can certainly discuss that. I also wanted to let you know that President Pacheco and I worked on putting the committees together for 2021. Thanks to members who provided your preferences for the committee assignments. I believe we were able to accommodate everybody's request. The committee assignments will be posted on the website next week. but just for general notification, the Anesthesia Committee, Dr. Felsenfeld will be the chair of that. Dr. Laren will chair Access to Care. Dr. Yu will chair Enforcement. Dr. Morrow will chair Examination. Dr. Lai will be chairing the Licensing, Certification, and Permits Committee. Ms. Burton will be chairing the Legislation and Regulations Committee, and Dr. Stewart will be chairing the Substance Use Awareness Committee. Now, committees meet when there are action items. And so if board members have an issue that they would like a committee to consider, they should contact the chair of that committee, and the chair should contact me and the board president. And we'll talk about how to best proceed moving forward with scheduling a committee meeting. For those new members, committee meetings generally were held on the first day of a two-day board meeting. And since we've gone WebEx, we'll have to figure out how we're going to do that. But that if there are action items that a committee could be taking care of, we don't want to delay in that. So just put your agenda items through to the chair, and we'll work on doing that. I additionally wanted to notify everybody that the Dental Practice Act of 2021 is estimated to ship on March 8th. I had asked for a slight delay in this publication in order to include SB 2138 requirements regarding the substantial relationship criteria, because those were approved by the Office of Administrative Law on January 22nd. So we try to get as much into the DPAs as we can, so we can expect delivery soon. And thank you to those board members who were actually asking about it. We usually distribute the DPA at the February board meeting, and we really don't even hear much about it. So, I mean, somebody may comment on how the cover is pretty this year or whatever. So I'm happy to hear that board members actually are using it, and that they look forward to getting it every year. So that will be coming, so stay tuned. There are a number of board members that still have to complete the Form 700 Statement of Economic Interest. Just a reminder that is due April 1st. On Monday this week, I sent reminder emails to those members who have not yet completed or submitted the Form 700. I will continue to do that. I know that some members, upon receipt of that email from me, notified me that they immediately filed that, so thank you very much. Please, for those of you who have not yet submitted it, make every effort to complete this as soon as you can. Lastly, for my report today this is a mandatory reporting year for the sexual harassment prevention training. And next week, PAHUA, the board's administrative analyst, will be sending out an email to board members with instructions on how to complete this training, along with the link to the training. Again, please try to complete this 2-hour training at your earliest convenience. We want to assist the department in having 100% compliance by the end of the year. This concludes my executive officer's report, and I will ask if there are any questions. Dr. Morrow? Dr. Morrow, did you have a question?
Yes, my question, thank you, Karen. My question relates to the recent OPS 2001, which is really agenda item number 5, but you did bring it up in your report. So is it appropriate to ask my question now or wait till agenda item 5?
I'd say wait till agenda item 5.
Thank you.
I'd say, wait, Dr. Morrow, now I'm confused. My report is agenda item 5.
I'm sorry. Has to do with the DCA's issue policy OPS 2001.
Yeah, that's what I just.
Okay, great. I thought that was true. Second paragraph on page 21 of 186 identifies that DCA recommends that board members and instructors should not serve as expert consultants. What is meant by instructors?
Well, this policy is broad, so it's not just referring to, perhaps you're referencing a faculty member as an instructor, because this
That's
policy
correct.
would apply. This policy would apply to instructors. So I guess the question would be whether or not a faculty is considered an instructor, and if that's the question, we will take that to the other professional examinations and get clarification for you.
Okay, because we do have faculty members that serve on national examination subject matter experts, and also serve on the REB and the ADEX examination as well.
No, I think that this policy is referring to board members.
But yeah, it says board members and instructors, so I'm just concerned about what is the definition in this policy of what constitutes instructors.
Okay, so we will make a note of that, and we will get you in contact with OPES to provide further clarification.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. McKenzie, it looks like you've got your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to know with respect to the CE credits, you mentioned obviously there's 6-month extension to allow online. Are there any limits as to how many can be online, or there's no restriction there?
I'm going to defer to Ms. Wallace. I would say that probably the best kept secret for our Dental Practice Act is that all CEs can be taken in live interactive mode. And I'll ask Ms. Wallace to comment on that.
Good morning. This is Sarah Wallace, Assistant Executive Officer. So it's an interesting question because that's actually combined with another waiver that has been issued from the Department of Consumer Affairs. So currently, the regulatory requirement is that CE has to be taken at least 50% in person or in live interactive studies. So that could be through a live webinar format. I'm sorry. However, due to the pandemic, there was a waiver that was requested and approved, and now upwards of 100% of the credits can be taken in a web or non-live format. That I can send additional information on to the board after this meeting. It is available on the DCA webpage, on the DCA waivers page relating to dental continuing education, but currently through the pandemic, licensees are able to complete 100% of their CEs through internet-based, with the exception of the basic life support, which requires a hands-on live patient component. I hope that helps. I can provide additional information after the meeting to the board and explain how the different waivers for continuing education as it relates to the dental board all correlate.
Thank you. That is helpful.
President Pacheco, Dr. Molina, I see your hand up.
Yes, and where would they find this information if they need a waiver or an extension to complete their CEs? That will be on the website?
So the information relating to the existing waivers for continuing education are posted on our website. On the board's website, on the home page, there's a link at the top that alerts everyone to a COVID-19 information page. And we've been keeping that up to date with the information relating to the waivers and the extensions and the deadlines. But essentially, staff, and I may have to call on Jessica only if you're available, But at this point, if a waiver is needed, then the licensee would contact the board staff. We get several emails, and the licensee would answer no to the completion of the continuing education requirement. They would still be able to push through the renewal, and it would essentially mark that renewal is applicable to that waiver. Jessica, if you're on, can you correct me if I'm wrong?
Hi, good morning. This is Jessica Only. You're correct. If the licensee is eligible for the waiver, they just need to answer no to having completed the required continuing education. We've worked with the Breeze developers to update Breeze so that they automatically update for that licensee, and we will be able to track who was granted that waiver.
And this is both for dentists and assistants, correct?
Correct. That applies to any license that the board issues that requires continuing education, from the license or permit, as well as the additional permits that a dentist might hold. But yes, it does include the dental auxiliaries as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I'd like to jump in here just briefly. This is Karen Fisher. The director has been extending this requirement as needed. So right now, this requirement applies to licenses that expire between March 1st and March 31st. So, Dr. Laren, do you have a question? Dr. Laren, if you have a question, you need to unmute your microphone.
Here I am. Sorry, I did not unmute.
That's okay.
Yes, I had a question about the policy OPES 2001. Is that a new policy? Did it just come out in December 2020?
Yep. Yes, it is.
Okay. Did you say earlier that there's pathways? I didn't hear you too well. Did you say that there's pathways for board members to apply for?
Yes.
Okay.
In essence, there's this policy does not change anything. I understand that you're still interested in being a board, an examiner for the REB, and we can talk about that offline, but you still are able to do that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And Dr. Laren, if you could put your hand down, please, that'd be awesome. Okay, if there are no other board comments, President Pacheco, I'm going to hand it over to you to ask if there's any public comment.
First, thank you, Ms. Fisher, for your report, Ms. Wallace, and Ms. Olney for the supplemental information. At this point, are there any public comments?
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type, "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to your hosts. We'll pause for a moment to allow time for submission. Seeing no request for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Thank you. Yes.
It is closed.
We will now move on to agenda item 6, update on Attorney General's annual report on accusations prosecuted for Department of Consumer Affairs client agencies in compliance with Business and Professions Code Section 312-2, January 1, 2021. I will ask Carl Soni, Senior Assistant Attorney General, to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Executive Officer Fisher and President Pacheco and members of the board. My name is Carl Soni. As indicated, I'm the Senior Assistant Attorney General of the licensing section of the Office of Attorney General. Licensing is that section in the Office of Attorney General that is charged with handling the enforcement matters for the dental board as well as other agencies within the Department of Consumer Affairs. I believe this is the second time I've appeared before you, and this is a treat to be able to highlight some of the information that has been accumulated and reported in our last report. Licensing is comprised of about 120 attorneys and paralegals working in 5 offices across the state of California. So we have a very robust system that's designed to prosecute the matters on behalf of the dental board and other agencies, and consistent with the robust enforcement program of the dental board. Can we change the slide? So this morning, I'm going to give you an overview of the program and the data contained in our Attorney General report, and that will be comprised of the data collection process. And then I will talk briefly about the report as it pertains to all agencies. And then finally, I will focus specifically on the data for the dental board. As you all, I'm sure, know, the dental board has a sophisticated enforcement program. Over the years, I've handled several cases myself, and it is truly a delight to work with the professionals at the dental board and its very talented staff. The report that I'm summarizing this morning is public and was published by the Office of Attorney General on January 1st, 2021, but it covers the fiscal year of 2019 to 2020. Let's change the slide. So the genesis of this report goes back to 2015 when SB 467 was passed. And the intent of SB 467 was to work on improving the processing times for all licensing agencies. And that was as a result of a consumer protective enforcement initiative that had been developed a few years before that was designed to reduce the average times that had hovered around 36 months for prosecution down to 18 months. SB 467 then is the vehicle by which we measure the data that we accumulate during the course of a year to see how we're doing. It became effective in 2016, and the very first report was prepared on and published on January 1st, 2018. However, it's really the second report for 2017 to 18 that was published on January 1st, 2019, was the first report where we consolidated our methodology to coincide with the methodology employed by our sister section, the Health Quality Enforcement section that represents some other agencies within the Department of Consumer Affairs. This is the fourth report, and again, it covers 36 agencies and the licensing work for them, as well as the data for the agencies represented by our Health Quality Enforcement section. The goal is ultimately to identify trends, but that is going to probably take a number of years to really see a really consistent and determinative trend line for the work that we are doing. Agencies are not comparable to each other, and however, agencies can compare themselves to each other, to their work for a prior year. And so we'll cover a little bit of the changes that have taken place between this year and last year. Let's flip the slide. So we use a piece of software called ProLaw. It is our case management system. It includes all of the, generally includes all of the investigative and other materials that we receive from a client agency. And then in that electronic file, there are various what we call milestones. These are events that get inputted into that specific enforcement matter to allow us to pull that data out for general reports. So those milestones include, for example, the date the case is referred to us, the date when the case is filed by the agency, the date of the hearing, the date the hearing is submitted to the administrative law judge at the Office of Administrative Hearings, and the final date of resolution. It is a data-intensive report, as you imagine, and it takes some time to develop all this data, which is a reason why it's published about 6 months after the conclusion of the fiscal year. Let me just indicate that the auditing process is, again, pretty intense. We have a group of about 24 paralegals who validate each individual file to verify that the data is correct, and then to provide any corrections that need to be made and ensure that all supporting documentation is in our system. Let's change to the next slide. So this slide shows the sort of consolidated metrics for all of the licensing and health quality enforcement clients. By the way, health quality enforcement, they represent 7 agencies, and their probably largest agency is the medical board. So if you look at the numbers here for accusations in fiscal year 18-19 compared to 19-20, you see that 52% of the referrals that we get from all our client agencies are accusations. So this report doesn't include a lot of other types of referrals that we get. The total referrals that we get from the Department of Consumer Affairs licensing agencies are about over 3,500 matters. You'll notice that there was a decrease this past year, and we'll talk a little bit about what may be contributing to that decrease. Roughly, just a nominal amount of cases are rejected. Again, a fairly nominal amount of cases require further investigation. And then the cases that ultimately are adjudicated decreased from 3,929 cases in 18-19 down to 3,377 cases, a 14% decrease. And we'll talk again about some of these peculiar numbers, but I call them just changes in the numbers. Go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is specific to the dental board, and what it shows is that there was a decrease in the number of accusations referred to the Attorney General from 18-19 to 19-20. Now, obviously, that piece of data is the data that we get from the number of cases we get from the dental board. But what I would like to just mention, I would call it the elephant in the room, is the pandemic. The pandemic, as indicated before, resulted in orders from the governor in mid-March of 2020, and that had a significant impact on the operations of all state agencies. The superior court systems were largely shut down. The Office of Administrative Hearings, which we'll talk a little bit more about, it was effectively not taking any cases to hearing, and the employees of the dental board and other agencies were switched to a telework framework. And that same transition to a telework environment happened at the Office of Attorney Generals, as, again, all state agencies. Let's go to the next slide here. So the upshot here is the further investigations received and requested. Those are really not material changes that really warrant any conclusions, in my opinion. Further investigations can be requested in one fiscal year, and the further investigation materials that had been requested in the prior fiscal year can be received in the next fiscal year. Consequently, it's very hard to determine and connect these isolated and fairly low numbers in these matters. Okay, let's go down to the next slide. So this is where we can see the highlight of the number of accusations filed changing significantly from 2018 19 to 19 and 20, a 39% decrease. Again, the number of accusations is a function of the referrals, which is within the control of the dental board. However, what I would comment on is because of the governor's orders and the effect on a transition to teleworking, that covered more than a quarter of the year, from March 15th through the reporting period, which concluded on June 30th. And so that is a very significant period of time when there was a disruption across all state agencies. So the way I look at this, I'm the attorney, obviously I don't do the referrals, but what I view from this is not too remarkable because everything has happened against the backdrop of the COVID pandemic. Next slide. And again, in this slide, what you see is the accusations withdrawn, again, are negligible. The accusation matters adjudicated, again, you see a significant decrease. So in this case, the matters that might have been scheduled or were scheduled to occur from March 15th to June 30th were substantially disrupted and delayed because of COVID. To give you a quick idea of what happened is once everyone switched to a teleworking environment, that included the Office of Administrative Hearings, and initially a few hearings could take place via telephone with the judge on the phone, the respondent on the phone, and our office on the phone, and then having exchanged some PDF files of evidence. Some hearings were able to go forward. Over a succession of weeks, software was deployed that would allow video hearings to take place. And those started taking place. But however, I don't want to quantify it exactly, a very material number of hearings that had been scheduled to take place from March 15th through the end of the fiscal year were substantially disrupted. While the dental board and our client agencies were eager to have matters adjudicated, we were at the, I was going to say the mercy, but we were just simply a function of the Office of Administrative Hearings, which was working to reestablish hearing dates to get matters adjudicated. Some types of hearings, like those of the dental board, require fairly detailed evidence. You can imagine x-rays and a lot of other types of evidence that are not easily handled via a telephone, not even really easily handled by video. In the succeeding months, we have worked with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and they have now adapted and implemented a new set of software that allows evidence to be virtually presented online during the course of a hearing and simultaneously allowing all parties to be on video. It's a very remarkable software development that we can credit to the Office of Administrative Hearings, that necessarily and when opposing counsel is not able or is comfortable on that software platform, there have been several occasions when the Office of Administrative Hearings has continued matters so that people can get familiar with it. We're confident in our ability to handle most hearings now through this new system, but it is not the same as an in-person hearing. Let's go to the next slide.
Mr. Soni, this is Karen Fisher, and I apologize for interrupting, but I just want to make sure Dr. Morrow has his hand raised. And Dr. Morrow, I just want to make sure you're not having any technical issues. Dr. Soni will take questions after his report. Oh, looks like Dr. Morrow's good. So I apologize for the interruption. Please continue, Mr. Soni.
No, and by the way, you just promoted me to a doctor, and I'll have a Juris Doctor degree. That brought a big smile because suddenly I felt even equivalent to some of the doctors who are in this audience here. So thank you for that compliment. Okay, let's go to the next slide here. These are the average days from the period at which an accusation is received to the time when an accusation matter is filed. And what you see here is actually positive information, a 16% decrease from accusation received to accusation filed. And what I would comment on here is that the pandemic did not necessarily affect the ability of our office to prepare accusations. It's really the more difficult challenges to get them heard by our client agencies. So accusations filed after further investigation, again, pretty consistent numbers. So these are interesting and positive information, but very hard to draw much in the way of conclusions from them. Let's go to the next slide. Accusations filed to settlement. Again, this was essentially the same. And so what I think I can fairly say is, generally speaking, our office will work hard on, and our client agencies such as the dental board, as resolving cases through stipulated settlements. And when that can be done, that does not require a hearing, obviously. And that has, there's less roadblocks to resolving a case through settlement during the pandemic period. Accusations filed to default, somewhat increased, but again, I would be hesitant to draw any conclusions from that number. Let's go down here now to the next slide. So this is where you really see, in my mind, the impact year to year. You see an increase from accusations filed to hearing requested. That's a little up, but not too dramatic, but hearing date received to hearing commenced, 266 days. And what I would surmise is, again, we are seeing the impact of COVID on the fact that the Office of Administrative Hearings for a time was not able to handle most or many cases. The initial cases, by the way, that were handled via telephone tended to be very short cases, usually 1 day or less. And the cases on video early on tended to be also kind of 1 day hearings, sometimes 2 days hearings. And dental board cases sometimes are more complex and again, are not easily susceptible to being held over just merely a telephone call with a judge and the other side or via video. But we are confident that the software that has been implemented by the Office of Administrative Hearings will be effective to handle many more cases that could not be handled previously. Let's go to the next slide. This is really the last slide. I think we ended there. Again, this is the conclusions I believe that drive this entire report. We want to measure as much as we can all of the activities of our office and the dental board, because once you can measure something, you can work to improve it. You can dissect where the impediments are. And we believe with the dental board that we've made great progress over the past few years, and we expect to see much more progress. But right now, the Consumer Protective Enforcement Initiative goal of 18 months is very challenging during these pandemic periods. But we will be working to improve them. Again, you also need to recognize that agencies vary. Some agencies tend to have hearings that are susceptible to very easy and quick resolutions. Others involve more convoluted, I shouldn't say convoluted, I would say more complex allegations that have their own challenges with it. And the more complex the case, the more important due process becomes. The respondent licensees to have a fair and appropriate opportunity to have their issues raised, to provide their evidence to us and the judge, and to have it all fairly and appropriately adjudicated. So due process is in tension with expediting the matter, and that's always been true. So finding the balance between speed and due process is our constant challenge. However, due process is a very dominant concern, but we believe that the processes that are being employed are working nevertheless to reduce the time frames, and we will see that reduction over time. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
This is Joanne Pacheco, Board President. Thank you, Mr. Sani, for your report. Are there any board member comments at this time? Please use the raised hand feature. Seeing none, are there any public comments?
I'm sorry, President Pacheco, I see Dr. Lai's hand up.
Okay. Dr. Lai?
Good morning, Mr. Soni. This is Ross Lai, member. I have two questions. One, when a case goes to hearing, does the defendant side pay for part of the hearing? That's my first question.
Yes, not initially. The only time when a licensee is required to pay for the hearing is if there is a determination on an accusation that costs will be charged to the licensee. And that will be contained in the actual decision, which will be sent to the board members for review and adoption. And if that is approved, then the amount adjudicated for them to pay will be charged to them.
Thank you for that. Second question is, a lot of times before it goes to hearing, or if there's an act or an egregious act, usually there's an insurance settlement prior to, I guess, for us to look at a license for some individual. Is there any crossover information from those litigations that gets kind of addressed when a person comes in and becomes goes before our hearings? Is there any crossover where if there was a settlement or if there was a ruling that they didn't do anything wrong, does that go into our hearing process as well?
Usually not. The reason for that is, for example, if there's an insurance determination, that will be governed by the contract between the licensee and the insurance company, and really is not probative of anything that we can use in our hearings. Our burden of proof is very high, typically for accusations. It's clear and convincing evidence. That's a much higher standard of proof than what is required for civil actions and civil disputes between insurance companies.
I see. And do you find where, like, if a case goes for many, many years, and some of our cases go, 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10 years, is there changes within feelings if different ALJs kind of rule the case or hear the case, or is there pretty much a consistency between the judges, the ALJs that we are what we're seeing as far as over the years?
It's hard for me to comment broadly on that, other than to say that we've been very impressed with the quality of judges at the Office of Administrative Hearings, recognizing that some judges may have had, for example, many dental board cases,
yes.
Others fewer. Some of them may come with their own, we're all human, so we all look through facts from our perspective. But I've been generally very impressed with the quality of judges we see at the Office of Administrative Hearings.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sonny. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I see a hand raised by Dr. Laren.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. That's a great report. I learned a lot, and I've been on the board for a while. But I wanted to ask, I mentioned this because they did mention it last time we had the report of that they're still putting in the accusations and reports for us to read. They're still putting where the person studied, where the dentist studied, like they studied in the Philippines or they went to USC. And I personally don't think it should be there. I think we spoke about that last time, and they were going to try to remove that. I'm just asking.
I circle around with my staff on that, if you will. Are you referring to the actual decisions which you get, or to the charging document and the accusations?
Whatever we receive to read and we make a judgment off of that, that's where the mention of the school is notated. So I don't think really that should be there. That is,
I suspect if it's in the decisions that you read that have come from the administrative law judge, I would say it's fairly common for judges to put in the background of people, not just from dentists, but from all different professions. And I think that's perhaps a stylistic choice. Some judges will ask at a time of a hearing, they'll ask questions themselves, and they'll say, where did you get your education? Where did you get your training? What are some of the jobs that you held before you got, into this, matter? So if that's the question that you're raising, I can't control, and we can't control what an administrative law judge will ask. And that may or may not get into your decisions. Is that responsive to your question?
Yes, but it just seems a little bit, that somebody could read that, and like us, we could read it and think, hey, they're a foreign graduate, maybe they didn't get the best training, so they're going to get a different termination on the outcome. So I was just hoping that could be eliminated from whatever we receive.
Well, what I will do is I will go back and look at that issue. Again, I think most judges like to put in as much information as they can, but that's not really under our control what gets put into a decision.
Mr. Soni, this is Karen Fisher. I'm going to interject again here. Dr. Laren did bring this question up, and typically it's something that's said in the transmittal letter that the DAGs usually send along with the stipulated settlement. So that's a function. I'll take care of this, so you don't need to look into this. I thought that we had corrected that, but it's just a matter of getting the word out to all the DAGs that what our format is essentially for the transmittal letters. So we'll continue to work on that on my end. And
I will follow up on my end too.
Okay. Well,
I'm making a note of it right now.
While I've got the floor, and before we go into public comments, I just want to also say that it's been an honor to work with your DAGs. They're highly trained, very pleasant on the phone. I've probably worked more closely with them in the last year. I'm not sure why. I think in the past they've been used to actually negotiating with our discipline coordinators, who actually are the middle person between them and me. And so in some cases throughout the last year, I've actually had direct contact with them, and each and every one of them have given the board terrific service. So I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you very much. That's really good to hear.
President Pacheco, if you see no other board member comments, you might want to go to public comment.
Yes, and thank you, Dr. Soni, again for your presentation. Are there any public comments? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
Moderator, this is Karen Fisher. We typically hear you and we're not hearing anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
So strange.
No announcement.
Okay. My apologies. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to your hosts. Seeing no requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, this is Joanne Pacheco. Please close the public comment box. And this would be a great time to take our morning break. If we could reconvene back at 10:30.
Thank you. We will make note.
Thank you. Pacheco, and we are ready to reconvene the meeting. We are ready to move on to agenda item number 7, report on Department of Consumer Affairs activities. I will ask Mary Kate Cruz Jones, DCA representative, to present this agenda item.
Good morning. Good morning, Board President and board members. I'm Mary Kate Cruz Jones from Board and Bureau Relations at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to provide a department update to your board. First, I would like to welcome Ms. Medina as the newest member of your board. Congratulations on your appointment, and thank you for your willingness to serve. COVID-19 has affected every aspect of our work. After another temporary closure in December due to state and local stay-at-home orders, DCA offices are again open with preventative measures to safeguard the health and safety of our employees and visitors. DCA and its boards and bureaus are maximizing telework to help reduce COVID-19 transmission risk for all employees. Public health measures such as distancing, face covering, and frequent hand washing are required for those employees who cannot telework. Thank you to your EO and board staff who have been working so hard to maintain excellent customer service and protect the public throughout these challenging times. DCA is pleased to announce that on January 12th, Governor Newsom appointed Monica N. Vargas of Sacramento to the role of Deputy Director of Communications at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Ms. Vargas has been an information officer in the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, OES, since 2015. She was an information officer at DCA from 2013 to 2015 and served in multiple roles at OES from 2007 to 2013. On February 2nd, Governor Newsom appointed Sarah Murillo as Deputy Director of Administrative Services at DCA. Ms. Murillo has gained a wide range of experience in her nearly 20 years of service to Californians in various state departments, including California Complete Count Census 2020. Ms. Murillo comes to DCA with a skill set that makes her well suited to support all the entities within our department. Her appointment fills the final vacancy in DCA's executive office, and DCA is so pleased to welcome her. One of the top priorities in Board and Bureau relations is appointments, and I would like to provide a brief overview. Currently, the board has one vacancy, a public member appointed by the governor. DCA and all the appointing authorities share the goal of a fully seated, diverse, and effective board. Filling current and upcoming vacancies is a priority. That being said, if any members know any great candidates, or if any members of the public attending this meeting today are interested in getting involved, please find the link titled Board Member Resources on DCA's homepage and apply for an appointment. For current members, 2021 is a mandatory sexual harassment prevention training year. This means all employees, as well as board members, are required to complete the training this year. I'd also like to remind you that Form 700 filings are due by April 1st, 2021. You, as board members, are designated appointees and are required to complete a Statement of Economic Interest Form 700, even if you have no reportable interests. If you have any questions on how to file, you can speak to the department's Conflict of Interest Filing Officer, Jill Johnson, who's located in the Department of Human Resources at DCA. I am pleased to let you know that Board and Bureau Relations, in partnership with Solid Training, has developed a brand new board member orientation training, which will be held via WebEx on March 11th. We are very excited about the brand new improved training, which has been updated based on board member feedback and requests. As a reminder, all newly appointed and reappointed board members are required to take this training within a year. To register for BMOT and for more details, please visit the DCA Board Member Resource Center, which is located on our webpage at dca.ca.gov. Finally, I'd like to let you know about 2 exciting new initiatives launched by DCA Director Kirkmeyer for 2021 to enhance DCA services to all boards and bureaus. The first is an Executive Officer Cabinet. This is a group of board and bureau executives who maintain regular communication, provide feedback and information to DCA, and assist with special projects that will impact all boards and bureaus. The second is the Enlighten Licensing Project. This work group is being formed to utilize licensing subject matter experts within the entire Department of Consumer Affairs. The group will help individual boards and bureaus streamline and make their licensing processes more effective and efficient by utilizing best practices, information technology, and cost-saving measures. These 2 new initiatives are just kicking off, and we will keep you updated on their work and impacts. As always, Board and Bureau Relations is here to help, and if there's anything that we can do to assist, please feel free to reach out. That concludes my presentation, and I will hand it back over to Board President Pacheco. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz-Jones, for your presentation. Are there any board member comments? Seeing none, are there any public comments? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen, type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field, and submit that to the hosts. We'll pause for just a moment. Seeing no requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Thank you. We will now move on and out of order to agenda item 9, budget report, and then swing back to agenda item 8 after that. I will ask Steve Long, the board's budget analyst, to present this agenda item.
Thank you, President Pacheco. Good morning. My name is Steve Long, and I'm the budget and contract analyst for the board. I will be presenting on the budget report, which begins on page 86 of the meeting materials. The first section of the report is a summary of expenditures for the first 5 months of the current fiscal year from July 1st, 2020 through November 30th, 2020. The state dentistry funds appropriation is consistent with the recently released 2021-22 governor's budget. The board has a current year appropriation of approximately $17.7 million and has spent roughly $5.9 million, or 33% of its total appropriation. Of that amount, approximately $3.2 million of the expenditures were for personnel services and $2.7 million were for operating expenses and equipment. Attachment 1, which is on page 88, displays a detailed breakdown of expenditures for the state dentistry fund by line item. The prior year budget and prior year actual expenditures are displayed in the green columns. The current year budget and year-to-date expenditures are displayed in the blue columns. And the expense projections for year-end spending and the remaining balance are displayed in the orange columns. The board is projected to revert $2.5 million at the end of the year, which is at the bottom. Going back to page 87 on the meeting materials. At the direction of the governor, the state reached agreements with several bargaining units to achieve cost savings in order to balance the state budget due to the impact of COVID-19. The reduction in employee compensation amounts to a cost savings of $984,000 for the board in the current year. Control Section 3.92 of the Budget Act of 2020 allows the Director of Finance to transfer amounts equivalent to the employee compensation reductions from each special fund as a loan to the general fund. So the $984,000 in savings has been loaned from the state dentistry fund to the general fund. This loan is in addition to the previously mentioned $5 million loan per Budget Act of 2020, which is scheduled to be repaid with interest in fiscal year 2024-25. And it's important to remember that the loans will be repaid sooner if it is determined the board has a need for the monies or the general fund no longer has a need for the monies. Attachment 1A, which is on page 89, displays an analysis of the state dentistry fund's condition. And the two loans are identified under general fund transfers about halfway down the page. The board has sufficient funds in reserve for economic uncertainties and has historically reverted a significant amount of money at the end of each year. Attachment 2 on the following page displays an analysis of the state dental assistant fund condition. This fund merged with the state dentistry fund on July 1st, 2020. The reserve balance is kept in the dental assistant fund for a period of time after the merge in order to be able to pay any expenses from previous years. After a period of 2 to 3 years after the merge, the reserve balance will be transferred to the state dentistry fund and the state dental assistant fund will be abolished. There's no action requested at this time, and this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Long, for your report. I see board comments. Hands up, Dr. Lai.
Good morning, Mr. Long. I have one question on the 10% employee cost savings. How is that achieved? Is that from salary reduction or
yes? So
good morning, Dr. Good morning, or less employees? We couldn't hire anybody. Where was that from? How did we achieve the 10%?
So the goal,
cost savings?
Okay. The goal was 10%. The actual agreement was a 9.23% reduction in employee pay. And then in exchange for those employees get 16 hours of personal leave credits per month. And so it doesn't limit hiring positions. It's just a reduction in employee pay.
I see, but since we're going to have a kind of a increase in 14.28%, we can't put that back towards our employees. That has to go into the loan to the state. What I'm asking is, how come we can't take care of our people before sending it off as part of the general fund?
So this is an agreement that was made all across the state, and we don't have the authority to, I guess, divert from that. It would be nice to be able to, but yeah, those are agreements that are set up with the state and the different bargaining units.
Yeah, I'm just want to make sure employees are being taken care of. That's all. That's my comment. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lai. Are there any other board member comments? Seeing none, are there any public comments? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have again opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the ask field and then submit that to your hosts. Seeing no requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Thank you. And just to let everyone know, we are continuing to hold on agenda item 8 as Dr. Keating attempts to get on the line. So we will move forward onto agenda item 10, discussion and possible action on extending the strategic plan through 2021. And I'm going to ask Karen Fisher, Executive Officer, to please report on this agenda item.
Thank you, President Pacheco. I have provided in your meeting packet the strategic plan that the board has been operating under. And within this plan, I have indicated the items, the goals and objectives that have been. I think that if you had read through this, you can see that we still have some work to do. And I am scheduling essentially the workshops, and we are getting started on producing a new strategic plan by the end of the year. But at this time, I would like to request the board move forward and just extend this strategic plan that we have in your packet through 2021. And my expectation is that at the last meeting in this year, in 2021, the board will be essentially approving a new strategic plan moving forward. Does anybody have any questions? Dr. Morrow?
I don't really have a question. I have a statement. I believe this item was brought to the table at our previous board meeting, and I believe that I made a motion to extend the plan, and for lack of a second, it died. So I will make that motion again. I move that we extend the current board's strategic plan for another year.
Thank you, Dr. Morrow. Dr. Stewart, do you have a question?
No, I would like to second that motion.
Ms. Burton, I see your hand went down, so you are going to get into the Act 2. I'm going to hand this back over to you, President Pacheco.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to extend the current board strategic plan by Dr. Morrow and a second by Dr. Stewart. Are there any board member comments? Please use the raised hand feature. Seeing none, are there any public comments? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to your hosts. Seeing no requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Thank you. And thank you. And Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes for this agenda item.
This is the board secretary. We are voting on the motion to extend the strategic plan through 2021. Burton?
Burton, aye.
Burton, aye. Felsenfeld, aye. Lai?
Lai, yes.
Lai, aye. Laureen?
Laureen, yes.
Laureen, yes. Mackenzie?
Mackenzie, yes.
Mackenzie, yes. Medina?
Aye.
Medina, aye. Mendoza?
Mendoza, I.
Mendoza, aye. Molina?
Molina, I.
Molina, aye. Montel?
Montel, aye.
Montel, aye. Dr. Morrow?
Morrow, I.
Morrow, aye. Olagi?
Loggy eye.
Olagi, aye. Pacheco?
Pacheco, aye.
Pacheco, aye. Stewart?
Stewart, I.
Stewart, aye. You?
You, I.
It is unanimous. The motion is approved.
Thank you, Board Secretary. We will now move on to Agenda Item 11, Dental Assisting Council Meeting Report. I'm going to ask Melinda Cazares, newly elected Chair of the Dental Assisting Council, to please report on this agenda item. I'm sorry, is Jerry going to be giving the report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, good afternoon, board members. My name's Jerry Fowler, and I'm Vice Chair of the Dental Assisting Council, and I'll be giving the Dental Assisting Council report. The Dental Assisting Council meeting was held Thursday, February 25th, 2021 via WebEx. Roll was called and a quorum was established. The following agenda items were discussed. Agenda item 2, election for Dental Assisting Council Chair and Vice Chair. Melinda Cazares was elected 2021 Chair. Jerry Fowler was elected 2021 Vice Chair. Agenda item 4, update on dental assisting programs and courses. Agenda item 5, overview of registered dental assistant program reevaluations. And agenda item 6, update on dental assisting examination statistics. And agenda item 7, update on dental assisting licensing statistics, was given by Amelia Zuluaga, the dental assisting program manager. Agenda item 8, the presentation on a dental assisting pathway in Smile Crew, California by the California Dental Association, CDA. The California Dental Association, CDA, has launched a new recruitment campaign, Smile Crew of California, designed to highlight careers in dental assisting and create a pool of qualified candidates for dental assisting job openings. The campaign is targeted at candidates displaced from service roles with transferable skills. Information regarding this campaign was presented via a verbal report given by Andres Bjork, Vice President of Strategic Intelligence and Analytics for the CDA. Agenda item 9, discussion and possible action on potential amendments to Business and Professions Code Section 1750, Infection Control Course Requirements for Unlicensed Dental Assistants. The council members discussed changing the requirements as outlined in BPC 1750 to require the 8-hour infection control course prior to exposure to blood or OPIM for unlicensed dental assistants. It would require a legislative change and submission of a legislation proposal approved by the board. The council members directed staff to bring the agenda item back for discussion in a future dental assisting council meeting. Agenda items 10, presentation regarding examination development and validation processes, the Department of Consumer Affairs, and the Office of Professional Examination Services, OPS. And agenda item 11, the presentation regarding RDA written examination pass rates by the Office of Professional Examination Services, was presented by Dr. Heidi Linzer, OPS representative. Then agenda item 12, update regarding RDA-EF examination, was provided by Amelia Zuluaga, the dental assisting program manager. Well, that concludes the Dental Assisting Council report, and I turn it back over to Board President, Mrs. Pacheco. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fowler, for your report. Are there any board member discussions? Please use the raised hand feature. Dr. Morrow, you have a question?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Thank you, President Pacheco. Ms. Fowler, I want to just take this opportunity to welcome you to the Dental Assisting Council and to congratulate you on your selection as the Vice Chair of the Council for this year. So welcome, and it's a pleasure to be able to work with you and the Council.
Thank you, Dr. Morrow. It's always a pleasure working with you.
Thank you. Are there any public comments?
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type, "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to the hosts. Seeing no request for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
And do we have a motion to accept the report as written? And I see several hands up. Was the first hand Dr. Morrow?
I move to accept the report as presented.
Okay, and it looked like the second hand was Dr. Stewart.
Yeah, Tom Stewart, I'd like to second that motion.
Great, thank you. Board Secretary, please call the roll and record the votes for this agenda item.
We are now on agenda item number 11, the Dental Assisting Council Meeting Report. The motion is to accept the Dental Assisting Council Meeting Report. I will call the roll. Burton.
Burton, aye.
Burton, aye. Felsenfeld, aye. Lai.
Lai, yes.
Lai, aye. Lareen.
Lareen, yes.
Lareen, aye. McKenzie.
McKenzie, yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
McKenzie, yes.
McKenzie, yes. Medina.
Aye.
Medina, aye. Mendoza.
Mendoza, aye.
Mendoza, aye. Molina.
Molina, aye.
Molina, aye. Montel.
Montel, aye.
Montel, aye. Morrow.
Morrow, aye.
Morrow, aye. Olagi.
Olagi, aye.
Olagi, aye. Pacheco.
Pacheco, aye.
Pacheco, aye. Stewart.
Stewart, aye.
Stewart, aye. You.
You, I.
You, aye. It is unanimous. The motion is adopted.
Thank you, Board Secretary. We will now move on to agenda item 12, enforcement, review of statistics and trends. I will ask Carlos Alvarez, Chief of Enforcement Field Offices, to present this agenda item.
Or muted?
How about now? Are you able to hear me now? I was speaking already. Yes. Okay. Good morning, Board President Pacheco and board members. Carlos Alvarez, Enforcement Chief, presenting on agenda item number 12 of review and statistics and trends for October 1st of 2020 through December 31st of 2020. So I'll start off with the Complaint and Compliance Unit. From October 1st of 2020 through December 31st of 2020, the Complaint Compliance Unit received 1,016 complaints. Compared to my last report that I provided back in December, we received actually more cases back then. We received 1,365. So we received approximately about 349 complaints less this quarter, so which is good news for us. So currently right now, the number of complaints that are open in CCU where we're collecting records, the complaints are moving through the dental consultants where they're reviewing them. So currently right now, we have 713 cases that are open with what we call CCU. And the number of complaints that were closed were 579. And again, some of these cases were they're identified as non-juris. These cases were closed by our dental consultants where they found no errors. That's where these cases were closed. So approximately the average complaints that were closed was 190 during this time period. And I'll move into cases and investigations with the SARS, with the subsequent arrest where licensees unfortunately get arrested. And we have right now pending 347 cases. So all those cases here we're waiting on we're just always ordering records from the courthouses. We're also waiting on dispositions. We're waiting on these cases to get adjudicated. And so some of these cases we're waiting on if the DA, the district attorney, decides to dismiss the cases. Some of these cases are a continuance where they just continue on. And that's why some of these cases that we have here that we have as 2 years plus is because these cases haven't been adjudicated. So currently right now we have 347 cases with SARS. And then I'll move into the number of investigative cases with the non-sworn and our investigative analysis unit. So currently right now we have 434 cases that are pending in that unit. And as you can see, the numbers are low with our case aging with 3 years plus. Those numbers are very low. We're at 3. So that's very good that we're at these numbers because, again, our statute of limitations is 3 years. So what we try to do is we try to file these cases with the Attorney General before the statute of limitations run out. So, again, the good news is that these cases are very low. We only have 3 in that unit. And so I'll move into the number of cases that are open with our sworn unit. And here in our Sacramento office, currently we have 189 cases. Last report that I provided, we were at 192, so we were able to reduce that just by a couple of cases. And again, just going back to our case aging, with our 3 years, again, we are low. We only have 4 cases there. So that's, again, great news for us. And also moving on to our Orange Enforcement Unit with our sworn, we currently have 356 cases. And currently right now, pending with our 3 years in our case aging, we have 10. And from my last report, we had 12. So again, good news, we reduced that by 2. So then our number of investigative cases that are open with our non-sworn, which is our special investigators in our Orange office. Currently, we have 61 cases that are pending. And again, if you see here with our case agent, we don't have any cases at 3 years. The cases between 2 and 3, we have them at 4. So that's really good news. Again, great numbers there with our case agent. And so the number of investigations cases that were closed between October 31st and 2020 and December 31st of 2020 were 324 cases. And again, this is combined between all the offices, the investigative analysis unit, the sworn office here in Sacramento, and Orange office. So that was 324 cases that were closed. So I'll move on to the number of inspections cases. Now, again, inspections are complaints that we get for unsanitary conditions at the offices. So currently right now we have 34 inspections in our Sacramento office, and we have 86 inspections in our Orange office currently right now that are pending. And so I'll move in now to administrative and disciplinary action. So currently between October 1st in 2020 and December 31st of 2020, we issued 6 citations. So some of these citations could have been for record keeping. Some of the citations that we could have issued was for licensees not providing records within the 15 days that we requested it. So those can be some of the examples that we issued citations. And so currently right now, a total of 18 accusations were filed with the Attorney General's office. And this was the same number that we submitted on our last report. We had 18, so that's steady there. And then this quarter, what we reported, we had a total of 33 cases that were transmitted to the Attorney General's office. And currently right now, we have 115 cases that are pending at the Attorney General's office currently right now. And I'll move into number of probationers that we have. So the good news here is that we have 180 active probationers currently right now, or total 180. And from my last report, we had 191. So that we have 11 less probationers. And so that could be the reason because some of these probationers successfully passed their probation, or it could have been too where they were revoked due to a probation violation. So again, we have 11 less probationers. So in the Sacramento office, currently right now, we have 26 active probationers. We have 17 probationers that are tolling, which they're out of state, and we still have them submit to court reports. So they still have to follow their conditions. Just again, when it means tolling is that their time stops because they're not in the state of California. So once they return back to the state of California, then their probation time starts again. And so with the Orange enforcement units, we currently have 97 active probationers and 4 probationers that are tolling. And our investigative balances unit, we have 33 active probationers, and currently we have 3 probationers that are tolling. So that completes my report for agenda item number 12, the review of statistics and trends.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez. Are there any board member comments? Please use the raise hand feature. I see 3. We'll start at the top. Dr. Laren.
Hello, how are you today? I'm so delighted to hear your report. I just want to thank you for everything you do, and especially because you are fully bilingual and you can communicate with the public and know the culture and language so well that you can do a better job with what you're doing. But I wanted to ask you, I'm curious, do you have any complaints about the COVID virus? With the COVID virus, have you received any complaints? I know they usually go to health department, but I wanted to find out if you've received any complaints directly about transmission of COVID.
From dental offices, that if there's been transmissions?
Yes, like a complaint. Hey, you know what? I got COVID from. I went to the dental office and I got COVID, and they're not taking care of, infection control or whatever.
Yeah, as far as right now, no, we don't have received any complaints of that. If there were complaints and there were any positive tests that came of a COVID, then that would be reported to the public health department or the state. That would report it to them first. Yeah, but we don't have, to my knowledge right now, we haven't received any complaints that any positive tests came from a dental office.
So if you did, you pass it on to the health department. Is that correct?
Correct. The first entity that would be contacted would be the Department of Public Health.
Okay. Thank you, Carlos.
You're welcome.
And Dr. Laren, if you could lower your hand. Next, Dr. Morrow.
Thank you. Thank you, Carlos, for your report. To refresh my own memory and also for the benefit of the new members that we have with us today, Could you explain to us the difference between the sworn and unsworn cases?
Yes, of course. So the difference between the sworn and the non-sworn, so we follow the guidelines. The Department of Consumer Affairs has guidelines where we prioritize our cases. Priority ones is where there is potential harm to patients. And so we follow those guidelines. And so what those is we need a sworn investigator. So some of those reports could be that they could be under the influence, again, potential for patient harm. And so it's like the death cases where they need a sworn investigator because they're more intense. And so again, it's any type of death cases, any complaints that we get for, let's just say, excessive prescribing, where it needs a sworn investigator, cures, because we have to be a sworn investigator, go in and cures, start pulling reports. Again, if there's any serious arrest where we deem that there's serious felonies, it could be assaults with a deadly weapon. It could be serious sexual misconduct where it needs a peace officer to investigate, where those reports we could transmit at the same time, we can transmit it to the district attorney's office for a criminal complaint, and we could submit it to an attorney general's office for an administrative action. So the non-sworn, they investigate cases that there's no, the potential for harm on a patient is very low. And so they investigate the quality care cases. Again, quality care is, I went into the dental office and I think they did a bad root canal. You know, I went to the dental office and I think they didn't provide any records to me. So that's the type of cases that they investigate. It's just based on the priorities, potential harm versus the low potential harm.
Carlos, this is Karen Fisher. I'm gonna jump in here, Carlos.
Yes.
And give a shorter answer.
Okay.
The board has sworn investigators, which means they actually are peace officers. They wear a badge. They have guns. They're full-blown police officers. The non-sworn are not police officers. We have some special investigators, and then we have some analysts. So that's another way to answer your question.
That's good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, and Dr. Stewart.
Good morning, Carlos. I'm looking at the middle of, good morning, middle of page 113, and you're talking about some high priority cases where there's potential harm, and I guess in the middle of page 113, it got my attention with the asterisk that inspectors are prohibited from going into the field to do some of those inspections. So are those just on hold? Are you able to do it, some of that work through the telephone, or can you talk about how that's being impacted by COVID-19 and when what's gonna change that? I'd like to hear that.
Yeah. Sure. So some of these cases here is, like I said, we have been able to do some over the phone. We've been sending out letters, and then we also here in Sacramento, we have a special investigator that has been going out in the field to conduct the inspections. But again, with COVID, we're being really careful as to sending inspectors and investigators out in the field. And like as Karen mentioned, that we will resume once again with the vaccines that are out there. We're putting, again, guidelines for the safety of the inspectors and the investigators to go out. But again, we're acknowledging these inspections. Again, we're doing them over the phone, sending them letters as well so they know that they received a complaint. And again, here in Sacramento office, we trained special investigators also to go out in the field and start conducting some of these inspections as well.
Thank you, Carl.
And I see that Dr. Lai has a question.
It's Dr. Lai. I just have a comment. I know that I know Carlos, and Carlos is, I know he's bilingual, but it should not be any. There should be not. It's misconstrued that there's any bias in any type of investigation that he may follow up on.
Are there any other board member comments? And doctors, if you could please lower the hands. Seeing none, are there any public comments? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type, "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to the hosts. Seeing no requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 13A, diversion program report and statistics. And I will again ask Mr. Alvarez to continue reporting on this agenda item.
Thank you. I'll continue reporting diversion program report and statistics. And so the Diversion Evaluation Committee, what we call the DEC, program statistics for the month ending of December 31st, 2020. These statistics reflect the participant activity in the diversion program, and they're presented informational purposes only, and the statistics are derived from Maximus. So currently right now, with new participants, there's only one new participant that received within quarter two. Currently right now, total participants that's there's in Maximus is 8. And self-referrals where licensees refer themselves to again, to the diversion committee or recovery is 4. Enforcement referrals, there's 1. Currently right now, probation referrals are 3 is within, it's in their probation order that they need to report to diversion, and that is the probation referral. And so total completed cases for combined quarter 1 and quarter 2 is 2 cases. And so there was successful completion of the program was 1. And then there was a termination, 1, and that was in quarter 1. And so currently right now, the total drug testings that was ordered by Maximus, total overall quarter 1 combined with quarter 2 were 210 cases. So that is the report that I have right now for diversion.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez. Are there any board member comments? Please use the raised hand feature. Seeing none, are there any public comments? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have again opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type, "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to the hosts. Seeing no requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 13B, Controlled Substance Utilization Review and Evaluation System Report. Mr. Alvarez, can you please present this agenda item?
Yes, I will continue with the agenda item number 13 with cures and registration. Currently, right now, we have 34,921 active licensees. And unfortunately, again, we haven't been able to get numbers from the Drug Enforcement Administration as how many total licensees have registered with the CURES database. But from my last report that I provided, we have 180 new licensees that have registered for CURES. So that's really good news. In December 2020, we ended with 16,129 licensees that registered for CURES. And with CURES usage as of December of 2020, it's the number of searches. And now, if you can see in my report, there was a spike on the number of searches. And what happened was Department of Justice combined the number of searches by licensees, and they combined it what they call information exchange web services. So this is an example where these dental corporations or licensees have more than one office, and they utilize CURES, and they have just one username for all the offices, and that explains the kind of the spikes on why there's number of searches increase. And so for October, the number of searches, there were 13,529. And then in November, 14,712. And December, 14,376. And the times that the system was accessed, October, 3,545. November, 3,438. And December, 3,511. And the reason these numbers are low and the number of searches are greater is, again, they log on one time, and so they could be searching multiple patients at one time. So that's why, when the access to the system is kind of low, they're registering one time, but they're doing multiple searches. That's the reason why these numbers are higher with the number of searches. So then the times that the help desk was requested, which is, again, good news that licensees are reaching out to the Department of Justice with CURES with the help desk. And currently right now, they use the help desk in October 107 times, November 110, and December 112. So that's good news that they're reaching out to the help desk. And as you see, if we move down to the number of prescriptions that were filled by schedule, so they reported schedules 2, 3, 4, and 5. And as you see is with the schedule 5, there was, again, a spike on those numbers again. And I don't have the exact information. I believe it's because of AB 528 of CURES, but I'll get to that when I report it. But that might be the reason why the Schedule 5s, which are considered low potential for abuse, and the Schedule 5s are, the examples is cough medicines, the Robitussin, where they have some codeine in the cough medicines. So they have to report the Schedule 5 now. So that might be an explanation why there was a spike on those numbers there because of AB 528. Does anybody have any questions on the CURES?
I see a hand up. Dr. Morrow?
Thank you. Carlos, I just wanted to ask you a question. On page 1 of your report, you identified 34,900 plus active licensed dentists in California, with about approximately 10,000, a little over 10,000 less that are registered to prescribe. How many of the 34,900 active licenses are actually practicing in California, and how many of them have a California license but are actively practicing in another state?
Yeah, so currently that's the number that I have, 34,900 that are active licensed DDSs, but I don't have that number. Probably in licensing, they will probably have those numbers that relate who's active in the state and who's active out of state.
Okay, so we're basically saying that we have in California, 24,600 licensed dentists that have the ability legally to prescribe controlled substances.
And those numbers were derived once we started looking into the cure system, the 24,633, and we haven't been able to get another accurate number from the Drug Enforcement Administration. So that actual number, 24,633, was actually when we first started reporting cures. So we don't have an accurate number up to this date from DEA. We have been requesting it, but they just don't share that information with us for some reason.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I see another hand up, Dr. Felsenfeld. Dr. Felsenfeld, did you have a comment or question?
Yeah, I guess if I unmuted, it would make more sense. The part of your report where you indicate the number of prescriptions filled by schedule, who is being counted in that group? Is this across the entire state? Are these physicians as well as dentists? I cannot believe that dentists in December wrote 1,330,000 prescriptions for a Schedule II drug for our population. Is that possible?
Yeah, so what it is that's all across the state. And then also if if you look in page, I do have the printout where those numbers it's doctor of dental surgery and dental medicine. So it's all across the state that they're counting those prescriptions.
So what you're suggesting is we are still writing 1 million prescriptions a month for Schedule II drugs as dentists, or more than 1 million actually.
And those are numbers that, yes, that's the numbers that are derived from the Department of Justice. And those are just with number of distinct prescriptions.
Okay.
So that's overall, and I'm sorry, that's overall prescriptions from all licensees. I apologize.
It's not just
overall.
dentists, then is what you're saying. That's in the state. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Thank you, Mr. Alvarez.
Yes, but what's included is dental surgeries and dental medicine. It's included with that, but that's overall.
Thank you.
Apologize.
Do we have any other board member comments? If not, are there any public comments? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to the hosts. Seeing no requests, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes.
It is closed.
And thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 13C, update on Assembly Bill 528, Low, Chapter 677, Statutes of 2019, Controlled Substances, Cures Database, new reporting requirements for dispensed controlled substances. And Mr. Alvarez will continue with this agenda item.
Thank you. I'll continue with agenda item number 13, which is Assembly Bill 528. So Assembly Bill 528 took effect on January 1st of 2021, and which is the dispensing of a controlled substance that must be reported to the cure system within 1 working day after the medication is released to the patient or the patient's representative. So previously, the deadline to report was 7 days after dispensing controlled substance. So the law now requires the reporting of a Schedule 5, and that's what I reported back in the cures, why there was potentially a spike for it. So now the new law requires to report a Schedule 5 in addition to Schedules 2, 3, and 4. And this requirement applies to pharmacists and prescribers who dispense a controlled substance. And also with this new law, also it allows now licensees or physicians and surgeons who don't have a DEA registration, where they could not that holds a license for DEA to prescribe prescriptions. It allows them now to register with Cures and look into the Cures database without having to have a DEA permit. So that allows them as well. So in order to ensure that the dentists licensed by the Dental Board of California were apprised of the new requirements that would be took effect on January 1st of 2021, we posted alerts of AB 528 on our website. And so we also posted the alerts on and sent out email blasts of AB 528 to all licensees, and we did that on December 29th of 2020. And I also want to say that AB 528 does not affect e-prescriptions. So it does not affect, AB 528 does not affect e-prescriptions. Is there any questions on AB 528?
Any board comments or questions? Dr. Laren, I see your hand is raised.
I don't have a comment about this, but I did want to ask something, if I could, about the enforcement. We can ask Ross first about this issue if you'd like, but I would like to know if I can go back and ask something about enforcement.
Okay, Dr. Lai, did you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I have one question for Mr. Alvarez. So the question is, I know if you prescribe under a certain amount, I guess this, I think it was under 12 tablets, or they say that you don't have to report, or you still have to report, as far as if it's a short-term prescription, maybe for Tylenol with codeine or Vicodin or Loritab. If it's under 12 tablets, does that have to be reported? Because I remember before it didn't need to be reported.
Yeah, now with the laws, it doesn't specifically say the amount that has to be reported, but it doesn't break it down to say between these amounts you have to report, you don't have to report. But with these laws is you have to report everything, all prescriptions, no matter what the quantity is.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Can I see a hand raised, Dr. Molina?
So, one second.
Dr. Molina, this is the moderator. Typically that happens when you have more than one WebEx connection. I'm not sure if you have two devices connected.
Hello?
Yeah, we still have the echo. Do you?
Okay.
I muted you again. Do you have? Are you listening through a computer, perhaps without a headset or your cell phone? If you are, it could be that the sound is coming out and back in your speakers. Dr. Molina, I have reconnected you.
Yes.
Much better.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So, so just to clarify, you're saying that these are people that is for people that are giving the prescriptions or dispensing? So,
Correct.
or just
So this applies for licensees who are dispensing and they would have to report that with 1 working day after the medication is released to the patient or the representative.
What about if they're not dispensing, if they just write the prescription?
Well, if they're writing prescriptions, then they would have to have a DEA license. So in order for them to prescribe, they have to have a DEA license to prescribe controlled substance. Mm-hmm.
So, but what I'm not clear on is the dentist that is writing the prescription have to write this report, or the pharmacy that is dispensing the medication have to write the report?
No, it's the licensee has to write the report. So if a licensee is writing a prescription, they have to enter that in Cures and report that in Cures.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And can we circle back to Dr. Laren?
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks, Carlos. While I still have you, I just remembered, I wanted to ask you this question. I feel there's a resistance to report cases in the underserved communities that might not speak the language or are afraid to report because for whatever reason. So how, do you have a way, do you have like different languages on the website, or how can somebody feel comfortable that doesn't speak the language to report cases? And I feel there might be more abuse in the underserved community, and they're just not reporting it. So
yeah, on our dental website, we do have complaint forms that are English and Spanish. And also, DCA does have a telephone line where they could utilize for translation. And also, our staff can also use that line as well to translate. So these Department of Consumer Affairs has certain languages, and we call that number. We speak with that representative, and we have the other, like the consumer on the phone, and they start translating the complaint. So if we receive a complaint that's not in English or it's not in Spanish, like I said, we could send that out to DCA, and they could translate the consumer report to us. And again, if they're going to do any type of investigations where they need to interview them, then they will utilize that phone system where they could get a translator.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we are off topic, and in the future, the board president will need to okay going back to an agenda item, which I didn't hear happen. So just so you know, moving forward, if a board member wants to go back to revisit an agenda item, it will be up to the president to determine that, and it would be done after the completion of the item that we are currently on.
Okay.
Ms. Pacheco, I would suggest we just continue on.
Okay. Are there any other board member comments? I see none. And Dr. Laren, if you could lower your hand, and we will ask for public comment. DCA moderator, please facilitate public comment. Thank you.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to the hosts. Seeing no requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes. Yes, please.
It is closed.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda item 13D, update on AB 149, Cooper, Chapter 4, Statutes of 2019, Controlled Substances, Prescriptions, New Requirement for Controlled Substances Prescription Form. Mr. Alvarez, will you please continue to present this agenda item?
I will continue with the agenda item number 13, AB 149, Controlled Substance Prescriptions, New Requirements for Controlled Substance Prescription Forms. So AB 149 provided a transition period for implementing the new law requiring new security prescription forms for prescriptions for controlled substances. And so on January 1st of 2021, the only California controlled substance prescription forms that will remain valid and acceptable by pharmacies will be those possessing a 12-character serial number and a corresponding barcode. So this, again, I went back and I said the requirements do not affect prescriptions that are electronically submitted, which is e-scripts. And so, again, 149 delayed the transition period. And so now, January 1st of 2021, the only prescriptions that are allowed is with a 12-character serial number and a barcode. And now if there is any type of violations or any suspected violations of this, the board usually or gets contacted by the pharmacist directly. They'll either send us an email or they'll call us when they have like a suspicious prescription, or this will get reported by the Board of Pharmacy as well. And so then what we did here with the board in order to ensure that licensed dentists by the dental board were apprised of AB 149, again, we added alerts and we added AB 149 to our prescription and reporting rules on the alert tab. We added this to consumer new alerts as well. And then we also posted a YouTube video. So when you went on and you clicked on Cures AB 149, there was a YouTube video that went along with it. And so what we also did, again, was we sent out an email blast to all licensees, and we did that on December 22nd of 2020, so they could be apprised of these new laws before it took effect on January 1st of 2021. This concludes my report with AB 149.
Thank you, Mr. Alvarez. Are there any board member comments? I see the raised hand feature being used by Dr. Lai. You have a comment or a question?
Yes, I do have a question. Mr. Alvarez,
yes.
Question is, if a person does not utilize the new script and uses e-script, how do they apply for the e-script, number one? And secondly, if they prescribe by e-script, is that script automatically sent to Cures if they prescribe a schedule 2, 3, 4, 5?
So with your first question was, how do you apply for an e-script to submit e-scripts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know that question. I can research it, but I'm assuming that you would have to do it with either DA's office or Department of Justice for e-scripts. I'm not sure on what that procedure is for e-scripts.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, with the e-scripts, again, that still falls within, if you're writing a prescription for a controlled substance, you have to report that to Cures.
Okay, so it doesn't do it automatically.
It doesn't do, as far as my understanding, it doesn't do it automatically. You still have to report that to Cures.
I'll do some research too this week, and we'll take a look at it. Thank you.
Are there any other board member comments or questions? Seeing none, are there any public comments? DCA moderator, please facilitate the lines for public comment.
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel for requests for public comment. If you'd like to make a comment, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to the hosts. Seeing no requests for comment, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please.
It is closed.
Thank you. I think that it would be a good time to take our lunch break. It is 11:50. I would like to move that we break for 30 minutes, returning at what, 12:20? How does that sound to the board members?
President Pacheco, I see that it's 11:45.
Okay.
And if we could resume again at 12:15, 5 minutes, I think, makes a difference. So.
All right. Seeing no comments or questions, we will move for lunch and resume the meeting at 12:15, and I will adjust my clock. I guess I'm 5 minutes fast. Thank you. See you soon.
Oh, hi, moderator.
Yes.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I just want to ask you a question.
Sure.
Somehow before, okay, when I use my cell phone, I always see the raise hand feature, but this time I only see a chat symbol. I couldn't find my raise hand feature.
That's interesting because I don't have the chat open.
Because of yesterday, I after the incident, I go ahead and update my WebEx, okay,
Okay.
app, and then somehow
Dr. Yu, moderator, if I could help, it's Rose Olagi, because I have the same, Dr. Yu, this may help. On the bottom of the screen or on your app, on your phone, there's 3 little dots. Do you see those? Click that, and then it pops up like another screen, and then the raised little hand should be on the top.
found it. Oh,
yeah, it's like hidden.
Oh, let me see now. It may work. Hang on. I still don't see the arm. The raised hand one.
I can see your arm, your hand.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's up right now.
Oh, okay, got it. Got it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Dr. Yu and Ms. Olagi, can I ask what kind of phones are you connected with?
So it's like through the app, moderator. So if it's an Android, iPhone, or any mobile device, it's via the app that you just download from the App Store, and then that is where you see that feature. I think on a tablet, it's the same thing too as well. If you're going through the app and not the like Chrome or Outlook, Internet Explorer.
Okay, interesting, because we've teched a lot of the different devices and we have like separate instructions for all of them because they all differ so much. But I don't know that any of us have ever actually downloaded the app because we always use the temporary application option. I think we might do that and then go through that as well.
It's available on my iPhone App Store, so it's very convenient. Yeah.
Okay, good. And then of course WebEx is always pushing out updates on us, so keeping up with those is fun.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice lunch. Thank you.
Thank you too. And thank you, Ms. Olagi.